Hello, in this video I am comparing the CampSnap 2 to the CampSnap Pro. It's a very comprehensive review, so bear with me, it's fairly lengthy and I might have to look down at my notes from time to time. However, this is a video I've been asked for a lot, and now that I've spent a lot of time with both cameras, I think it's a fair time to compare. At the end, I will give you my ultimate recommendation of which one to buy. First up, what about the size and the weight of the cameras? CampSnap 2, CampSnap Pro. It is a bigger camera, the Pro. The depth, yep, slimmer on the CampSnap 2. What about the weight? Well, neither are heavy, if I'm honest, but the CampSnap Pro is slightly heavier. If it's really important for you that you can very easily slip your camera into your jeans pocket, shorts pocket, whatever it may be, the CampSnap 2 is going to win. The Pro is bulkier, but both will get in a pocket. And I really don't think that's the key thing to judge it on. I don't really know how to give you some scale, but if I take this 1980s Lego Spaceman, which I love, and pop it alongside the CampSnap 2, there you go. And what about the Spaceman and the CampSnap Pro? That's a pretty useless comparison, but at least I tried. So, you can't judge them on the size. The fact is, they are different. Right, let's talk about the features of these two cameras, starting with the flash. The CampSnap 2 has a LED flash. I've used this at parties occasionally, and it does the job. It lights people up enough when you're indoor and in dark conditions. The Pro has a xenon flash, and I have to say, if flash is important to you, that's the big thing for me that compares the two. The xenon flash will give you a much broader, even light on people and things indoors, especially in dark environments. There are general differences in overall features with the cameras. So, the CampSnap Pro has your filter wheel, which I'm going to talk more about, and your shutter, and then your display on the back. The CampSnap 2 has an independent on and off and flash on button, but it also has this button here which changes your filters, but also if held down for 15 seconds will initialize the camp lock, which means filters can't be changed. That's quite helpful if you want to shoot with the same filter constantly and not catch the button by mistake. Another feature the CS2 has over the Pro is quick draw. So this camera is currently on standby. It's automatically shut down to maintain battery. But if I hold the shutter button down, it will turn back on and take a photo, as opposed to you having to flick the switch back to on. It doesn't happen that quickly. So if you're in a scenario where you're like, whoa, look at that thing over there, and you get it out and you hold it down, it's going to take a second, but it does save you a little bit of time of flicking the switch over on the back. The Pro doesn't have that. You turn the Pro on with the wheel here, and you just turn it to the filter you want to use, and it'll keep it on. So that's a little bit slower than doing that. I do like the filter wheel, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that soon. Now let's get on to the really juicy stuff, filters. These are the reasons that a lot of people love CampSnap cameras or want a CampSnap camera. On the Pro you have 4 built-in filters. They are changed by this wheel here. You have standard, vintage 1, vintage 2 and black and white. To change those filters and actually turn the camera on, you just turn it to the first filter, which is standard. You hear it clicking on there, it takes a couple of seconds, and then simply wheel through to change the filter. Really easy, and it makes a little beeping noise when you've changed the filter, which is useful, and shoot away. I like this filter wheel being on top, because if I want to take photos of exactly the same thing but try out all the different filters, I can just turn this and shoot, turn it and shoot, turn it and shoot. Now, the CampSnap 2 has 6 filters built in. Those are standard, vintage 1, vintage 2, vintage 3, analog, which is my absolute favorite on this camera, and black and white. Those filters are cycled through by using the button on the back, and it's kind of small, but you can see a little indication above the photo count of which filter I'm on, which is kind of useful. You change through them, you shoot away. You can also use that, like I said with the Pro, while shooting the same thing, and shoot, it's a little bit trickier, and sometimes I feel like the frame will change slightly when I'm doing that, because instead of it being up here. What does it mean though, 6 versus 4 filters? Well, 6 is actually a lot. You may find that you really love a couple of the ones that are already built in there and you're happy with those. Versus the 4 on the Pro, there's still quite a lot of flexibility there. But if you're somebody who's going to want to test and try out loads of different filters, because actually you can add customized filters to both of these cameras, and I have a video on how to do that here on YouTube or whatever channel you're on, platform you're on. I'll link it in the comments. That means you could be running around with 6 different filters to try on your CamSnap 2 versus the 4 on the Pro. The options are huge. There's so many people producing filters out there now, the likes of campshades.com, but also you can make your own on the CamSnap website. I love filter changing. However, I will say on the CamSnap 2, I have barely used any custom filters because I love the ones that are built into this. Vintage 2 is fantastic, analog's fantastic, and I do love a bit of the black and white. Same goes with the 4. So, if you are somebody who wants more filters to choose from, it's going to be the CamSnap 2. That's just a fact. 6 versus 4. How do you actually get the photos off of these cameras? You've got 2 options. You could take out the SD card from the hatch on the bottom of each camera and plug it into a card reader, a laptop or whatever, and pull them off that way, which I have literally never done. Or you can simply use the USB-C charging and data cable that are supplied with the cameras, plug it into your phone, plug it into the camera, or plug it into a laptop, whatever device you want to use, and just drag and drop them onto that device. Really simple. I use an Android phone and I just do it with the built-in file system there. I'm not 100% sure how you do it with an iPhone, but there'll definitely be guides online around that. Either way, it's super simple and quick, and that's one of the big advantages of these cameras for me. They're screen free, so I don't get caught up looking at the photos I've taken, but also there's always that little bit of excitement when you get home from a trip. Like, I tend to use these when I'm traveling, and I'm like, let's take a look, and we go through them like when you used to have things processed in the past. So super easy, but a super nice feature of these cameras is that screen-free nature. Okay, now on to the most important thing, the actual photos themselves. One thing I'm going to say is it's very difficult to compare the two. One of the key reasons is that the CamSnap 2 has an 8 megapixel sensor versus the 16 megapixel sensor in the Pro. That means that the Pro, every time it's taking a photo, is capturing far more into that sensor, so the photos are naturally going to look different. The other thing that's very hard to compare is the filters. Even though some of them are named the same, the fact is they are not going to look and have the same effect on the photos across both cameras. Again, one is much higher quality from a camera perspective than the other. Having said that, if you want something that has a bit more scuzz, as I would put it, feels a bit more retro, a bit more vintage, then the CS2 is going to be the one for you. If you want to maintain that vintage and retro feel, but the overall quality of the photo is most important to you, then it's going to be the Pro. Say you're somebody who likes to do tight crops on your photos in post. That's going to matter because this will hold up much better, as you do that type of work. Personally, the only edits I ever do on any of my CamSnap photos are some crops. I don't do anything to the light, etc. Having said all of that, I have tried to help you here. So, this morning in the garden, I took sunny photos of the basketball hoop. On each camera, I used Vintage 1 and Vintage 2 filters. Having said that, again, remember that cannot be a direct comparison. But I'll show you now. So this is the Vintage 1 filter on the CS2, and then I will add the Vintage 1 filter on the Pro onto the screen now. You tell me what you think the difference is there. Personally, I prefer the Pro. I think it gives me far more to look at, to work, and the detail is tighter. Then Vintage 2 on the CamSnap 2 and Vintage 2 on the CamSnap Pro. It's hard to compare. They do the same job, just with different factors for the photos that are output. Now, what is my overall recommendation? Should you buy the CamSnap 2 or should you buy the CamSnap Pro? I'm going to share that now. So what should you buy? The CamSnap Pro. Just want to add a point that this sticker here is added by me. It says smile. That does not come on the camera. That's just a little customization by me. Sorry, yes. So what should you buy? The Pro or the CamSnap 2? There's something I missed out on earlier, and it's the colors. The CamSnap Pro, silver and black, that's it. The CamSnap 2, they've launched a bunch of colors with it, and also some really cool retro see-through cases. If that matters to you, and you want a super cool looking colourful camera to match your clothing or your other accessories or your personality, then you're going to want to get a CamSnap 2. But if photo quality while maintaining the retro and vintage feel is the most important thing to you, then it's going to be the Pro. Having now spent a lot of time with the CS2 and the Pro, this is my preferred camera in the CamSnap range. I actually love the way it looks, but honestly the photos I've taken with this just bring me far more joy than the CS2. Both are great. I think CamSnap are doing a fantastic job. I do a bit of ambassador / affiliate work for them, but I like to think I'm honest in my reviews. Price might matter to you, so the Pro will cost you $99 or £75 if you're in the UK, similar in euros, and the 2 is $75 or roughly £57. I think for the extra money, the Pro is worth the purchase. So there you go. Me, Mike, it's Pro for me. Whatever you decide though, both of these cameras will bring you a lot of joy and a lot of fun and a lot of freedom from screens, which I think we all need these days. Please do like, comment, subscribe, ask any questions. I am an affiliate for CamSnap. You will get a discount if you use my link, which is in the comments or in my bio link, depending on what platform you're on. But please do ask any questions. I've also got a bunch of other videos about CamSnap cameras, and I'll link to those in all of the comments. So there you go. Please do grab a CamSnap. It's a Pro for me, but you'll have a lot of fun with any of their products. Thanks for watching.